What is up, everybody? Welcome to my Madden 24 slider video. You guys have been asking for this a lot, like on almost every video, and I know it's been a while, but I finally have the sliders you guys have all been waiting for, the Baker sliders, the ones from Madden 23 that you guys all said really changed the way that your gameplay worked, of course, with CPU versus CPU. Let me preface this video. If you are here for user settings, I do not recommend these for user settings. These are strictly for CPU versus CPU, for those who like to watch in Super Sim slow mode, not playing the game, just being the head coach and the front office. This is what they are for. If you're here for the users, I'm sorry. This is not the way I like to play the game. I do enjoy sometimes, but I don't play enough to have a solid slider set for that. I've always said that I trust guys like Matt 10 on Operation Sports, because I know he does a lot of testing with his stuff. So if you're looking for some user stuff, I would check out Operation Sports forums and check out some of the stuff there, because they have a lot of guys that take a lot of time to go into the gameplay. And as you guys know, if you use the Madden 23 sliders that I showed you guys from Todd Baker, they are a very different set. They are a set that is meant to bring out the ratings of the players and stop stretching them and stop shrinking overalls to match each other and really let the attributes show through. And those are what the sliders are going to be today, once again. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you guys the settings and the sliders. And then after, I'm going to put in a little video from Todd Baker explaining why he sees sliders the way he does and why he sets them the way he does, because I can't explain them any better than he does. As I've told you guys, these are not my sliders. They're ones I use and ones I trust, but they're not the ones that I've created. These are strictly done by Todd Baker. So to me, it seems best to let him do the explaining on why he does them the way he does them with his own little video that he sent me. So I will go ahead and I will put that after the slider video. As for the sliders, let's get right into it. As you will see from the video, he believes, and I believe this as well, that Pro is the default setting in Madden, period. Once you go up or down, it's going to skew the numbers in a certain way to make the game easier or more difficult. The quarter length here is 10 minutes. So much shorter. Well, last year we had 11 minutes. This year it's going to be 10 minutes. And we also have no accelerated clock. So the accelerated clock is turned off, because that's going to extend the game, even though it's only 10 minutes long, and make it more lifelike and more realistic to what the play calling you get in real life is. And it also assists with the sliders. Another thing to mention here, and this wasn't mentioned in his video, but it's something we've talked about in the past, and I am a big believer of. I do not believe that Madden in general is designed to be played on 15-minute quarters. It is there as a way to make it realistic, but there is a reason they set everything to like 5 or 6 minutes. I think it can affect the players and the way they play the game and how their attributes work. And in this mode, CPU versus CPU, I do believe it can have an effect on the type of play calling you get. So having a smaller quarter length actually can potentially benefit the way your team is playing when you're doing the CPU versus CPU. The play call cooldown limit, this is set for 8 on offense and 4 on defense. And then the exact opposite, 4 for the limit and 8 for the limit from offense to defense. So the reason for this, offense has 1,000 different formations and 1,000 different plays. So the chance of you running out of a play to run, maybe out of a single set, is not that low, but the chance of you running out of the ability to run a simple play like halfback zone is very, very small. So you can set the cooldown up to 8 plays. You can set the limit to only 4 per game. However, on the defensive side of the ball, you have to think you have 6 or 7 different types of defensive plays. Cover 1, cover 2, cover 2 man, cover 3, cover 4, cover 6. And then of course you have variations of those, but it's not as big as an offensive playbook. So you don't want to limit them as much to put them in a bad spot where they're in a situation where they need to call a nickel set and they need to run cover 2, but they've already used the cover 2 4 times, so now they can't use it anymore. You don't want to put them in that situation, so that's why you have the limit up to 8 and the cooldown down to 4 so they can come back to those plays. Momentum meter off. I am so happy this setting was put in there. If you watched my settings video at the beginning of Madden 24, you heard my thoughts on it and how happy I was that it's taken out. It didn't work that it was turned off in the beginning of Madden, but they have patched it since, and now it is officially removed when you turn it off. All of this other stuff here is just your own preference here. Of course, I always say you should go for manual settings, but again, that is up to you. Now down here to the settings for the commissioner. Trade difficulty set to hard. You want this to be more difficult. We know it's easy to take advantage of Madden's system when it comes to trading. You want to turn this up to hard, make it a little bit more difficult, more realistic, so you can't just get all 1 through 5 picks in one draft and just stack your team. That's just not how things work. This is something that I feel is a personal preference. The free agent motivation impact. Baker's settings has this as low, and rightfully so. Some players just refuse to sign with you even if it doesn't make sense. But I have stuck to normal and even high at some points, just testing things out, seeing how it works to make it more difficult to bring in people. So this, like I said, is a personal preference in my opinion. It's not going to affect, of course, the sliders at all. This is just if you think you want free agent motivation impact to be a bigger deal, or if you want it to not affect it at all. So don't worry about what I have here. This is whatever you feel is best. Right now I have progressive fatigue turned off. The settings that Baker has them turned on, and they should be working now. Madden said they fixed it in the last patch where fatigue would just make players completely dog tired by, second half of the season. Starters were completely subbed out. They said they fixed it again. So I would go ahead, have this on, and see how it works. If you notice that players are getting subbed out too early in the game and not coming back, make sure you turn this off. But from what somebody actually told me in the comments on a couple videos ago, and I forgot about this little thing, is it will not take effect until next year. So if this happens mid-season, if you take the risk of having progressive fatigue on and that happens, you can turn it off, but it's not going to fix things until the following season when everything resets. This is also a personal preference, but the one thing that is not is the superstar abilities. These have to be off for these sliders to work properly. The reason for that is because you are taking out the slider changing and you are putting more emphasis on the individual attributes of the players. So the players that are really good, they should already stand out with what they are good at. They should not need abilities to conform the game to fit what they're supposed to do. So abilities need to be off for this slider set. If you decide to run them with the abilities on and you don't like the gameplay, please do not come in my video comment section saying that these sliders are trash, because I clearly, again, abilities should be off for these sliders to work the way they are intended to. And then up here, this is the part that I was saying is more of your own decision. I like having more X Factor and Superstars and Star Dev players because I like younger players progressing, but I also am one that'll go through all the players every year and I will manually change who has them if I feel that they shouldn't have it anymore. So this might not be for everybody. So if I go through and I find out that there's a 34-year-old that has X Factor, we don't even have abilities on. So what is the point of them having an X Factor development if they are 34 years old? I drop them to normal so that a different player has the ability to move up to that's younger and can actually benefit from that situation. And then the minimum roster size, I always like moving up to 48. He has it here in his settings as well at 48. I just think that you have to try and make sure that the computer has enough players on their team. So keep that up there to 48, and then yeah. And now on to the actual sliders, the stuff that you guys have all been waiting for. Since we're playing CPU versus CPU, you don't have to touch player skill at all. Just leave it at default. It's not going to affect things when you're running it CPU versus CPU, because this is only when you are physically controlling the player that it will affect the way the game is played. So you're going to come down to CPU skill, and these are the sliders that we are at. Not too much of a drop off for accuracy and pass blocking like in last year's set, I believe, but it does bring it down a little bit to allow the defense a little bit more of an advantage in certain situations. Ball security turned down. Again, these look very drastic. They are meant to be drastic. You want the abilities of the player to shine through instead of the slider forcing them to be a certain way. And again, all of this will be explained in the little video that I play here right after I'm done with this portion of it. So we're just going to go down here. Field goal power, everything in special teams is at 15. Again, to take out the ability for kickers with 89 kick power to be able to make the 56 yarders. They shouldn't be able to. You know, that should be for the players that have 95 kick power. That's what the point is here. Injury is all the way down to 10, but fatigue is turned up to 80. So with injuries being low, yes, it's hard sometimes to get injuries, but with the fatigue being higher, it will help not only in substitutions, but it will also help in more injuries, sort of overtaking that, so that way it's not too little of injuries, because when guys are tired, they're easier to get injured. So the higher the fatigue level, the better chance there is for an injury, so you can have the injuries low enough, like at a 10, and still not run the risk of never having an injury. Now, again, some of these can definitely still be adjusted. There's going to be updates. There's going to be things that change with the game. These might have to be adjusted at some point. I will see how things go, and if I feel that there needs to be an adjustment made, I will mention it in a video or do a separate one if there's enough changes that make enough sense to do it. Minimum player speed threshold is all the way down to 5. Now remember, if it is all the way down to 5, that means there is not much stuff being done to change the speed, which means that your 99s are going to be fast and your 80s are going to be slow, like they should be. All penalties are 45 and everything is turned on this year. Last year, there was quite a few of these that we had to have turned off. This year, they are all on. There hasn't been any serious issues from that. And yeah, so that is all of the sliders. Again, these are subject to potentially change with upcoming updates, changes to the game, things that I learn as I'm going through my franchise. And you guys can, of course, can follow along. If you haven't already checked out my Bucks franchise, make sure you do. There will be a link in the video here. Or just go over to my playlist section and you'll see the Buccaneers franchise. We're going on episode 10 here at the recording of this video, and it's been pretty fun. But I'll be using these sliders in the franchise, and if things are drastically changed, I will actually mention it in the franchise video. So you might want to check those out. Keep tabs on that if you are using these and you want to see if there's any changes down the line. Also, if you're looking, you can always check like the chapters. I always put chapters in my video, and I always will say what I'm talking about. So if I have a section where I talk about slider changes, I will have it as one of the chapters in the video. So you guys don't have to watch a whole video if you're not into it, okay? With all that being said, it is now time for me to play the little bit of an excerpt from Baker himself for these sliders and his thoughts behind it.
We're going to be talking specifically about Madden 24 sliders for your online franchise simulation style league. Now, getting on to the sliders, I have what I call the talent spectrum. This is the on-field performance of players. So in standard gameplay, you're going to have guys on the low end of the spectrum and on the high end of the spectrum as well. Think about this as their overall rating or their overall performance on the field while the game is being simulated. So I think we can all agree that, a mid-low 80s guy is a starting caliber player. They're going to perform fairly well on the field, all the way up to your 99 overall guys who should be able to dominate out on the field as well. On the far left end of the spectrum, you have your folks that really should not even be on the field, those 65, 70 overall guys that should play poorly on the field based on their individual ratings and their overall rating within Madden. All right, taking the next step here, the gameplay setting does matter. It has a huge impact on how the players play the game on the field for simulation style football. So again, we're taking a look at our talent spectrum and we're going to see how the gameplay settings affect on-field performance of the players based on their ratings. We're going to start it off by looking at rookie. And this is Madden's way to cheat the on-field performance. So your gameplay setting, again, just keep in the back of your mind, your gameplay setting is your Madden cheat. It's going to cheat players down or cheat players up to make the game more difficult or to make the game easier. On the pro setting, which is what I think is the base setting for Madden in general, I think it's been the base setting for Madden for many, many years now. What I mean by that is that on pro, players play the most true to their actual ratings in the system. So a 65 guy on the pro setting will play like a 65 overall guy. A 99 guy on the pro setting will play like a 99 guy, and everywhere in between, they play more consistently to their overall ratings. So what happens when we set gameplay down to the rookie level. Obviously, when people are doing that, maybe they're new to the game, just learning Madden, maybe playing for the first few times, they need easier AI to go up against. So they'll put gameplay on rookie, which means Madden is going to cheat down the higher rated players to make the game easier for somebody who is playing on rookie. Again, it's Madden's way to cheat the numbers. They're either cheating down the attributes of the players across the board, or they're cheating down those specific attributes that are associated with that player's rating based on their position. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes here with this stuff. There's a lot of really good videos out there about how the Madden ratings affect the on-field interaction. I know that GutFox is one that has a lot of really good information out there on the mechanics behind the on-field performance, the algorithms, what attributes are at play when things happen on the field, like blocking, like breaking tackles, all of that stuff. He has some really good videos on that. Make sure you check those out. But again, what Madden is doing is cheating down either the overall attributes or the individual attributes for their positional. So that's on rookie. Again, cheating down, making the game easier. So on the flip side of that, what happens when we change the setting to all pro? Now we're going again from the base of what I consider the most realistic play on the pro setting to an all pro. So Madden is going to cheat up the lower rated guys. And what this does is essentially is making the game a little bit more difficult than it would be on the pro setting. So a 65 overall guy on the field is now playing more like a 70. A 70 is playing more like a 75, 75 like 80, etc., etc. You can see your 99s will still play like 99s because you can't cheat up a 99 player any higher than that. That's the basic concept here. So it would make sense that if you change the gameplay setting to all Madden, now Madden is really cheating up those lower end players. Now your 65 overall guys are playing like 80s, your 70s like 80, 85, 75 like 85, 90, etc. You get the idea. Madden is making it more difficult for you to win because it is cheating up those bad players, making them good or average or higher than average players. That's the gameplay setting. Now let's talk about sliders because they both work in coordination here. And you're going to have to change the way you think about sliders because a lot of people, when they talk about sliders, they think that the sliders are more of something or less of something, and that's just not accurate. The way that the sliders work is that it is either a compression or expansion of the differential between the players on the field. Let me try to explain that to you if I can. What the sliders are going to do is bring players closer together or put players farther apart on their skill level based on how you have that slider set. The easiest way to test this, and how I started testing it years ago, was with what I consider the most basic of the sliders, which is the speed slider. It's very straightforward. So if you want a larger differential between the speeds on the field, if you want a slow guy to be really slow, a fast guy to be really fast, or if you want everybody to be about the same, which they wouldn't actually be about the same, but if you want to close that gap between a really slow guy and a really fast guy, that's where your sliders come in. That's where you're either compressing or expanding the talent spectrum for that particular slider setting. So let's take a look at what I would consider to be the base setting. This is the base setting out of the box. All sliders are set to 50. So even at 50, I think there is still some compression that goes on the slider scale. So take speed, for instance. At the base setting of 50, there still is a compression of speed on field based on that slider. So your really, really slow guys aren't quite as slow as they would be normally, and your 99 overall speed guys aren't quite as fast as it normally would be. They're bringing those two a little bit closer together so that on field, you don't have extremes on one end or the other. So again, compression or expansion. At 50% or at 50, it is actually compressing those talents just a little bit. What happens if we go to 90 or what happens if we go to 10? The higher you go on the slider scale, so if you start at 50 and you're pushing that slider up to 90, that higher number actually means that there's more compression in that talent spectrum. So if we go to 90, it's going to bring those talent levels closer together. Again, think about speed. If we push the speed slider up to 90, What that does in game is it brings everyone's speed a little bit closer together. Your really, really slow guys aren't nearly as slow. Your really, really fast guys aren't nearly as fast. It kind of evens out the speed on the field. If we take our sliders from 90 down to 10, that expands the sliders back out. That expands our talent spectrum back out. So now, really, really slow guys are slow on the field. Really, really fast guys are really fast on the field. You can very easily test this, and you can very easily see it if you're doing simulation style football. If you want to test it, you can go into practice. You can go in and edit 4 or 5 players, receivers, running backs, so that you do have 99, 95, 90, 85, 80 speed guys, and then run streaks. You can very easily see when you have the sliders compressed versus when you have them expanded, to have that difference in the speed or the speed differential a lot larger on the field. You can see that separation between a slow receiver and a fast receiver earlier on in that streak route. So you can also see it very clearly on things like kickoff returns, running backs, things like that. When a player has a breakaway play, if you have those compressed, you won't really see that separation as he's running down the field. You'll kind of see everybody able to somewhat keep up with him. But when you have these sliders set like down at 10 on the speed slider, and that talent differential is expanded, you really start to see your fast guys being really fast. When they do break away, they actually break away from the pack. There's not somebody that's hanging with them. If you have a receiver that breaks away and he's 99, you're not going to have a 90, 92, 93 overall speed cornerback that's even going to be able to keep up with him at all. You'll see that separation as he's running down the field. So that's the two separately. Again, I said they work in tandem. So let's think about what it looks like when you have these settings together. A lot of people who run simulation style football in their franchise, they want desperately to use all Madden because they think that's the setting that's going to make Madden perform at its highest level, and it's just not true. Again, the gameplay setting is cheating up the talent. It's cheating up those 65 overall players, condensing that talent spectrum, making the bad players good. And again, the sliders are the same, a talent compression system. It's not more of or less than of anything. So what's the combined effect of both? I've set it back to 50 for our slider setting. So that's going to start as our base. I'm going to keep it on all Madden so that we can see what happens when you have the gameplay setting set on all Madden and then your sliders set at 50. We know that the all Madden gameplay setting cheats those bottom players up, makes the bad players better. And then now when you add that 50 slider rating to it, it's going to compress that talent spectrum. Now you've got 65-ish overall players, really bad players, playing at a level that's decent, right? Pretty good, an 80, 82-ish level performance on the field versus your 99 guys who have been compressed a little bit, so they're not playing as superstar players that they should be on the field. You see this a lot, and you'll see it even in your stats at the end of the year. You see this a lot with the all Madden setting and the base sliders, where you just don't get a lot of variation on the field. Your great players aren't great. The crappy players aren't crappy. It's kind of, it's just an average looking player across the board for everyone. Now, there still are instances where your really great players are going to make really great plays. Now, I've been in some leagues where the head coaches that are running the team, for whatever reason, don't like their superstar quarterback. Maybe they've got a guy on their roster that's a 70, 75 that they like him because he has speed, or maybe one or two of his attributes are what they really like to see. And they'll throw him out there on the field, and he doesn't really suck that bad. Because you're running on all Madden and a slider of 50, that quarterback that is a 70, 72, 73 overall quarterback is not playing like one, because you've got an all Madden setting that's cheating him up, and you've got a slider setting of 50 that's also not necessarily cheating him up, but compressing that talent pool so that his play is not all that different from other players who may be within 5 to 10 overall of that player. So that's how sliders work, according to me. Now, sliders is like talking religion or politics. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. It's very rare that people agree on sliders and how they work, but this was through my own testing over the years. I really believe in this process.
All right, and there we have it, guys. I hope that his explanation sort of opens your eyes a little bit as to why he sees the sliders this way. It makes sense to me. You know, when you have that compression happening, you want to try to offset it, and the best way to offset it is to adjust them sliders so that way the game isn't forcing the attributes to be compressed together to make things more even or make things more difficult, whatever the case is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like the sliders. Let me know down below what you guys think of the sliders if you are trying to play with them. Again, this is for CPU versus CPU. Please do not come in my comments and saying these sliders suck because you used them in your play league and they don't work. They are not intended for player versus CPU. They're not intended for player versus player. These are strictly intended for CPU versus CPU. So I hope you guys like these, and please let me know down below what you guys think. Also, make sure you check out the Buccaneers franchise if you want to know if there's any updates to these sliders as we go through the cycle of Madden 24. But as for this video, that is all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider hitting the like button before you leave. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already and you want to see some more tip videos or franchise videos. And turn on that bell notification so you know when they go live. I will see you guys next time.